Hi friends, welcome to another video. If you're new here, hi, I'm Lauren. I'm an aspiring author writing what I hope will be my debut novel. It is a contemporary sapphic romance about two girls raised in a conservative Christian community who meet on a blind date with boys from their town. So for today's video, I'm still, trying out different things, and I wanted to do a little reading vlog because I write sapphic romance. I also mostly read sapphic romance, and I've got a couple books on deck that I'm really excited about, really curious about. Both of them are from authors I've never read before, so hopefully I can find a new favorite or a new go-to in this video. Wish me luck, who knows? Both of these are books I haven't seen people talk about all that often. One of them I was scrolling through my library and found it and decided to put it on hold in a whim, and then the other I had found while scrolling an independent bookstore by me and took a leap of faith on it, and I will let you know how they turn out. So the first book we're getting into today is Before I Say I Do by Claire Lyon. Okay, so spoiler alert, I have already begun this book. The hold at my library was running out a little faster than I thought it was, and I had to get started on it, but I'm only about 40% of the way through so far. It's also a lot shorter than I thought it was. I think it's 250 or so pages. So this book is about Jordan. She's a professional bridesmaid. It's set in the UK, and she takes a job at Abby's wedding as her professional bridesmaid, taking over, planning the bachelorette party, doing dress fittings, pretty much everything. And as soon as they get together, feelings start happening, sparks start flying, all that. So I am about 40%, and I'm kind of enjoying it so far. It's a little stilted in places. Some of the writing, the dialogue feels a bit robotic, but also it is set in the UK. There might be a much drier sense of humor I'm just not getting. Who knows? I'm gonna, keep reading it and see. There have been some random moments that I'm like, what's happening here? Y'all, what's happening here? Where I'm at currently, they're currently on the bachelorette trip, and the bride's mom, Abby's mom, comes with them on the bachelorette, and I'm like, does that happen? That's never happened on any bachelorette trip I've been on. But just little odd things. There was another moment where they were having a conversation, and it was from Jordan's point of view. It's dual POV, and Jordan said she struck a nerve in Abby, which from my perspective, maybe this is the American perspective, is a bad thing, but in the book it was as if it was a good thing. Just odd little turns of phrase and little moments that I'm like, huh, this is interesting. But so far I am having some fun with it. It's a fun situation, it's kind of like a twist on Imagine Me and You, if you've seen that film. We have not gotten to any issues with infidelity and cheating. I'm anticipating we'll reach that in the next 10 to 15% of the book, but we'll see. So I'll check back in with you guys probably once I'm done, considering I think my library hold is up in about 48 hours. Let's head outside and read right now. Okay, so the other day I finished Before You Say I Do, read it on my Kindle, and I have thoughts. Some of them great, some of them not so great, so let's get into it. I want to start with the good, which is that the book had a lot of potential. The premise is really interesting. Abby, falls for the professional bridesmaid who was literally hired to get her down the aisle, and in the process, comes out to herself, realizes her sexuality, the whole thing. That makes for a lot of really juicy drama, really interesting relationship dynamics building. Plus, all of the characters in this are 35, 36 years old. So the aspect of an older coming of age story is really cool. So I had a lot of hope going into this, but was kind of let down. The characters had really good chemistry, but mostly sexual chemistry, not really romantic chemistry, but we'll get to that next. But there were also some really cool side characters. I loved Abby's mother, Gloria. She was so cool. She was so fun, super supportive. Still don't really know why she was brought on the bachelorette trip for her daughter, but we can overlook that. She was fun. And then I surprisingly really like Marcus, the fiance who was, essentially left at the altar. Spoiler alert, they get together. I mean, you knew that already. It's a romance novel. He was actually like very kind and very sweet, and of course had kind of a not so great reaction to his fiance leaving him for the professional bridesmaid he hired, but he was quite nice. I was surprised that I liked him, and I did like that the author didn't like demonize the man. They didn't make him like a horrible partner. He was actually seemingly a very supportive partner, and that's also where some of my frustration with the book was, because one of Abby's like main gripes with her relationship is that she's kind of feeling stuck. She doesn't feel like Marcus knows her, but from what we've seen, it seems like he kind of does. Like, he hires a professional bridesmaid because he sees that Abby is stressed out with the process. And to be fair, he does misinterpret her reluctance within the wedding planning process as stress instead of complacency and discomfort with their future and dynamic. But he seemed kind of nice. Like, a lot of her issues with Marcus kind of came down to, my partner isn't a mind reader, which I think really fell flat. There was a lot of like, he doesn't know me, but also, are you communicating that to him? It was odd. Abby kind of had this, like, I'm high powered, I'm ready to go, I do my own thing, but was kind of letting Marcus not walk all over her, but she was letting Marcus get his way with the wedding, and more importantly, Marcus's mother get her way with the wedding, and kind of like falling to the wayside. I don't want to say being a pushover, but she wasn't taking charge in her own life and wedding, and that was, the cause of her internal conflict and character arc over the course of the book. Abby had a lot of internalized homophobia going on that goes entirely unexamined. And on one hand, yes, this is like a lighthearted sort of rom-com. We can leave the more serious, heavy topics to the side. But at the same time, because it went unexamined, her connection to Jordan felt a little hollow as a result. There was no like self-reflection in it. She just seemed to be going back and forth with her on total whims. And it felt like it wasn't setting up for a relationship you could believe in that would last into the future. So Abby kind of fell a little flat for me, but also so did Jordan, the professional bridesmaid. With Jordan, she also kind of let Abby walk all over her. There was a lot of back and forth in their relationship, a lot of Abby pushing for them to be together, then drawing back at the last second, saying that they need to cut off contact before the wedding, and then inviting her to stay, the night before the wedding when they're getting ready. It was very odd. If I was in that place, I personally would not have pursued a relationship with Abby after all that back and forth, but more power to the character. This is a romance novel. We can suspend our disbelief. But yeah, they just fell flat. And then their emotional connection and romantic chemistry just fell flat as well. There was a lot of tell versus show with these two. When we were in Jordan's point of view, we constantly heard that not only is Abby not like other girls, she's not like other brides. Someone called the presses. Should we throw a party? Should we call Bella Hadid? Who knows? There was just nothing to them. She kept saying that Abby was special, but there was nothing to back it up. She's special because she wants to work in a nonprofit? Because she's dissatisfied with her life? That doesn't seem like a reason to fall for somebody. The only way I can describe it is like kind of insta love, even though they did have like 6 weeks to develop their relationship before the wedding. And speaking of the wedding, not to get too spoilery, but the grand gesture does not come from the right person. And that, I was kind of upset by that. I was like, what is going on here? Can't get behind this writing choice, I must say. And then, side note, one really random thing about the book, which, trigger warning, tons of fat phobia in this. What's going on here, guys? In the beginning of the book, before Jordan and Abby start, working together, Jordan constantly talked about how nobody wants a fat bridesmaid and she has to lose weight before the wedding. And even then, like, when Gloria, Abby's mother, was on the bachelorette trip, they were constantly talking about how Gloria had rock hard abs and a six-pack. I'm like, why does this matter? What's the point? Abby had some fat phobia too, and that I kind of understood a little bit because Abby was raised in a more like lower working class environment and was marrying into money and her future potential mother-in-law was very focused on like aesthetics and image and reputation, and having that pressure manifest in Abby as like that fat phobia kind of like self-criticism, trying to keeping up with the Joneses sort of thing. That would have been effective, but it was just completely invalidated by all the other fat phobia in the book. It just felt weird and uncomfortable. So would not recommend this book if you're, triggered or upset by that. Lots of potential here, lacking execution, wanted a lot more from the romantic connection. It was very, very sexualized. These two seem to only be attracted to each other and not really have much connecting them otherwise. So, did I find a favorite author? No, but I would be open to reading more books by Claire Lydon. I did some research afterward and found out this book is from about 5 years ago and is one of the first she published, so who knows? More recent ones could suit my fancy a little more, so I might check out another one later down the line. I think my library has a couple more, so we'll see. And honestly, shout out to my library. I got this from the Queer Liberation Library. They're an amazing organization. It's a small digital library. You can get a card from anywhere in the US, not sure about other countries, for completely free, and they have an amazing, amazing collection of all queer literature, nonfiction. It's amazing. I will leave a link below for you to check them out if you don't have a card there already. Okay, and then the next book that I want to read for this vlog is Looking for a Sign by Susie Dumond. I haven't started this yet. I'm really excited about it. So this book is about Gray. She just moved to New Orleans, and she and her friend go see an astrologer in town, and then she ends up kind of challenging herself to go on a date with somebody from each zodiac sign to kind of test her compatibility across the board, which sounds so fun, so interesting. I'm interested in astrology and like tarot, witchy things. I'm very into like Halloween in the fall, so it's very up my alley, but I'm not the most knowledgeable. I try, but there's so much to learn, so it's a slow process. So I'm really excited about this. I'm really interested in how this works, how it's structured with 12 dates, but clearly one of them's gonna win. Clearly one of them is going to be the main love interest, so I'm excited. So I am going to get reading this, and I will see you soon. Okay, so last night I finished Looking for a Sign by Susie Dumond, and this one so much better than my previous read for this vlog. This is a solid 4-star, maybe a 3.75 rounded up, but I'm thinking a full 4. So, like I mentioned, this book is about Gray. She is newly single. She just got out of a 10-year relationship and has moved to New Orleans, and she's feeling super like lost in life and ends up seeing an astrologer who mentions that her Saturn return is coming up. So she's about 6 weeks out from her 29th birthday, and that is when Saturn returns to the spot it was when you were born, and it's supposed to like bring in new realizations, put you on the right path, kind of give you clarity. So because she's feeling so lost, especially in love, Gray and her friend Cherry kind of come up with this challenge for her to date one person from every sign in the zodiac. So essentially go on 12 dates in 6 weeks. And it was so fun. Honestly, this was such a fun and interesting way to build a world instead of, having the main character, be home, see friends, work, home, maybe go to a coffee shop or a park. This was like, we're going on ghost tours and seeing burlesque shows and street festivals. Yes, coffee shops, but also like spontaneous visits to like coastal islands. It was so fun and such a unique way to build out a world. And even though there were 12 dates, each date felt pretty fleshed out. Yes, because it's all organized by the zodiac, you kind of do run into some stereotypes now and again, but each date felt really unique. It was so interesting. And, because it is a date, there is obviously like that presumed romantic connection there, but it's always very clear when you see like the chemistry on the page versus when it's friend vibes versus when it's just not working out entirely. So very, very well done. I loved the whole date aspect of it. Beyond the 12 dates, there is a final love interest, and I'm going to avoid spoilers as much as possible. It's very difficult for this book, but I did love the way the final love interest worked out. Their relationship felt very real and developed very organically, especially considering they're, in this situation where Gray is exploring connections with so many people and going on all these dates. It felt like a grounding force within the book, if that makes sense. It was really good. I really enjoyed those two together. And then our main character, Gray, I did really like her. She is an Aries, and it definitely leaned into those Aries traits of, being a little fiery, very ambitious and driven, but she was also very loyal and very clearly flawed. There were some kind of self-centered-ish moments that we will talk about, but she was pretty easy to root for most of the time, and I really loved her connection with the final love interest, who will not be named. Also, this is very much a me thing, but I absolutely adored how religion and queerness were explored in the book. Gray and her best friend Cherry came from very evangelical families, and Gray specifically was actually disowned post conversion therapy. This is all very much in the beginning of the book. It's not a spoiler, don't worry. And it was really interesting to see how the author explored how religion impacts you even after you leave it behind, and how it still becomes a driving force in your life, whether that's trying to find a new thing to fill up that void or figuring out your own way of experiencing like religion and spirituality. It was really, really interesting. I really enjoyed it. It was very much up my alley. I'm a sucker for anything that, explores religion and queerness, as made evident by the fact that I'm writing a book about girls kissing and deconstructing Christianity. But beyond that, onto the, sort of not so good parts of the book. Like I mentioned, Gray was a bit self-centered at times. Every so often was kind of hard to root for. It's like when I was getting into it and really feeling the book, there would be something that would just take me out of it. Once again, trying to avoid spoilers, but there were times when I just did not like how Gray was treating her best friend Cherry. There is a conflict, with the love interest, as all romance novels have, that I think was just handled very poorly around the midpoint. I love fake dating, but I hate false pretenses. And this conflict centered on a totally unnecessary lie, in my opinion. But, we moved past it. But my biggest gripe with this book is that right at the beginning, I think it's on like page 30, Gray is signing up for this dating app where you could filter matches based on, zodiac sign. When she's, filtering, clicking through options, she goes, I think you can be a lesbian and date all genders. Which, no, you can't. That's actually not what being a lesbian is. Words matter. Definitions matter, and that is not what a lesbian is. She ends up going on a date with a trans man, and while the scene was, well written and good, it had this vibe of just like feeling icky and transphobic, because why is a lesbian on a date with a trans man who is a man? It turned me off. It took me a while to get back into the book, and it happened on like page 30. I was like, you know what, I'm committed to this. I'm sticking with this book. Maybe it'll prove me wrong. That was a problem for me as a lesbian. That's not what the word means. Lesbians do not go on dates with men. They are not attracted to men. We are not attracted to men. It's a pretty big part of what being lesbian is. So why is it so hard for people to leave lesbians alone? Like, we don't like men. That's fine. You don't need to make men the center of your life. Made me a little uncomfy at the start, but I'm glad I pushed through and read the full thing. But yes, just be warned. And then just like on a lighter note, I'm a Cancer, okay? And you can very clearly see the wall of mini ears right here. Why did the Cancer date in this book have to be with an absolutely insufferable Disney adult? Like, the likes of which I have never encountered in the wild. Why? Why? But yeah, other than all that, I did really enjoy this book. I think more like a 3.75 rounded up to 4, but I did really enjoy it. I don't know if I found a new favorite author, but definitely some potential. And when I was reading this, I realized that I had another book by Susie Dumond on my shelf, Queerly Beloved, which I think it's about like a baker in like the 2010s, and I think it's like pre-marriage equality, because it centers around, like wedding cakes and like being in majorly straight environments. It's not number 1 on the TBR now, but it's definitely moved up, so a win. So yeah, that's about it. I'd say this was a pretty successful reading vlog in my opinion. We had a 3-star but also a 4-star. You gotta get some variety. I'm very happy with it. I am always looking for new sapphic romances to try and read. This is a genre that means so much to me, so I'm very happy to be reading this. If you have read either of these books, please let me know your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear them. I'll also link my Goodreads. I'm really bad at keeping up with my reviews, but I do track like what I'm reading pretty well in there, so maybe I'll actually write reviews for these two now that I've, you know, spoken my thoughts and have them more organized. So yeah, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you take a chance on these books too, or just take a chance on a new sapphic romance you see while scrolling the library or browsing a bookstore. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed it. I'd be so happy if you did, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!